Hello, everybody, and welcome to another brand new episode of Vision CA Career Talks. I am Priya DCosta, a core team member of Vision CA, and today we are extremely pleased to have Jeetendra Khilnani. Jeetendra cleared his chartered accountancy in 2015. He has worked with Deloitte and Nomura, and now is an incoming MBA student at the New York University's Stern School of Business. Let's listen to more about this great journey from the man himself. Jitendra, a pleasure having you here today.
Thank you so much, Priya. It's a great honor to be here.
Sure. So let's start with your formative
Yes.
years and your background. So my very first question to you is tell us something about your school, your background, your formative years, and why you chose chartered
hmm
accountancy, your journey about as a CA in brief.
Okay. So this is a funny story, all right. So I when I was growing up, my father used to work at Bank of Baroda. He was a commercial banker. So he was a branch manager at various branches in India, all across India. He's worked in Uttar Pradesh, in Gujarat, in Tamil Nadu, in Maharashtra, a lot of these states. So there was a time when he used to work at I think Silvassa. This is a small union territory in Gujarat. He used to work there, and it was a smaller branch, and he was a chief manager there. So and when we were there, all my summer vacations were spent over there. So I used to go with him to the bank to just see how things work because I had nothing to do. Right, it was a small home. We did not have a TV. So I had nothing to do in my summer vacations. I was a lonely kid. I did not have friends also over there. So I decided to go with my father to the bank, and sometimes he would make me sit at a counter in case any staff was absent, and make me collect checks and issue tokens. At that time, we used to have these metallic tokens for cash withdrawals. And I remember there was a time when my father's branch was going through an audit. Okay. So there were auditors over there, and I was fascinated. You know why? Because the auditor used to come in the morning, and everybody used to be scared. Aaj kya mang lenge? What will he ask for today? And my father also used to be very, because he was the leader of the branch, he used to always be very pally with the auditors. He used to take them out for lunch, and the talks they used to come into his cabin and they used to discuss everything, and my father used to call me also and introduce me to them that this is my son. And it was a very bureaucratic process, for the lack of a better word. So I decided this is the best job. I get to have free lunch. Everybody's scared of me. The moment I walk into the office, everybody stands up to greet me. So I decided that I'm going to be an auditor. I had no clue what it takes to be an auditor, but this was when I was 11. All right. Of course, over the years, this memory had then faded. And then I think after 10th standard, the one big realization I had was that I was just terrible at physics, chemistry, and biology. So I could not do science. I was not interested at all in it. So I chose commerce. And then I was going to be like, okay, let's see how it goes. And then somehow, they say the universe has a way of bringing things back to you. So probably once because I said it that I'm going to be an auditor, destiny just guided me in such a way that I chose commerce. And then once I chose commerce, the most viable career path was to be a chartered accountant. So I chose chartered accountancy, and I did become an auditor for 5 years of my life. So yeah, it has a way of working things out.
Great, that's a really incredible story. I don't think anybody else must have had such a fascinating
Yes. So
story.
basically, my career decision was based out of free lunch.
Yes, nice, good. So, can you tell me about a bit about how your CA journey was and how you managed it alongside your college?
Mhm. It was great. So I started off in 2011 with my 12th standard, of course. Luckily, Mumbai University allows us that bandwidth to do both things together because otherwise, I think it would have been a real challenge. So it wasn't as much of a challenge in terms of going through the CA course with college or dabbling the two things together because I always had the opportunity to skip one in favor of the other. So yeah, it started well in 2011. CPT was great. CPT was very easy, to be honest. Now that I look back at it, of course, students going through CPT will not feel this way. They will feel that this is Mount Everest, but every time you climb Mount Everest, there's a taller peak to conquer. So yeah, now looking back at it, CPT was not much of a hassle. I think the main trouble I had was with IPCC because there was a very short gap, right? It's just 9 months between CPT results and jumping into IPCC exam, and the portion was very small. enormous. So yeah, that was a challenge. And at that time, I think I did go through a time where where I didn't have enough time to, spend with my friends. My friends had started alienating me. So yeah, that was the challenge. But other than that, I don't think it was much of a issue. In terms of college, I had decided personally that I wanted to be very active in college. So that was a personal choice, and I always made sure that I somehow made time for it, even if it was, very demanding. I wanted that for myself.
It's nice to hear that you balanced everything out, because many of us CA students often crib that we don't get college, we
Hmm.
can't do college, but you are a live
Right,
example of
right.
balancing everything out. So note to take for all our audience that it's possible if you plan it, everything properly. So now moving on, in college, you were active in many debate societies, the
Hmm.
English Literacy Society, and also a part of Toastmasters International. You, in fact, have
Yeah,
founded Toastmasters Chartered Accountants Mumbai. So tell me, how
yeah.
did all these experiences of public speaking, of debating, etc.,
Hmm.
groom you to what you are today?
Hmm. Oh, completely. The fact that I'm able to sit before you today and speak about my life is because of all the public speaking experiences that I've had so far. So I was so introverted in school that I couldn't take the stage ever for public speaking. There was a time when we had an oral examination in class 10 for the board exam, where there was an external examiner. And it was an empty room, and I had to just talk for 1 minute. There was nobody in the room, and I still couldn't do it. And I remember on the first day of my college, I couldn't introduce myself. So we were 125 students in both our college, and it was a 40-minute lecture. So we had only 20 seconds, and the teacher had asked us only to say two things: what is your name, where are you from? That's all I was supposed to do, and I still couldn't do it. That was how low my that's how low my confidence was. So but then slowly and steadily with Podar, with the public speaking experiences that I had, with whether it was with the group discussion cell or the speakers academy, things slowly started to change. Of course, it doesn't happen overnight, and it takes a lot of time to build that confidence that when you get on stage you'll not faint. you know so it took a lot of time, but I am so grateful that it happened, because otherwise I don't think any of those things that have happened subsequently would have happened. I mean, I can't imagine being frozen in my NYU Stern interview, because that would have definitely meant a reject, let alone an admission. So yeah, I think it has had a tremendous impact, and I recommend everybody, especially chartered accountants, because we tend to get overwhelmed by the syllabus and the core curriculum of the chartered accountancy course, that we forget that this small part of our personality, which will of course play a huge part in your success thereafter. So yes, you will pass the exam very well, probably get ranks and everything, but after that, if you're not able to communicate your thoughts clearly, or you don't have experience of expressing your ideas in a way that everybody understands and can get on board with it, it's definitely going to play a part in your future success. So I really recommend everyone to make sure that they are, making some contributions towards developing their personality.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you on that. And it's quite happy. I'm happy to see such a, live example of a transformation, like what you said when you were in the 11th grade, and about a decade later, you are
Yeah.
absolutely comfortable with talking to people. In fact, you encourage others to do so through Toastmasters.
Yes,
So
absolutely.
that's an example for all our audience, that if you take it to your mind that you can do something, you definitely can do something. You have to put in the efforts ultimately. And you're so right on saying that CS students should focus on this more, because I think often we just get bogged down with the syllabus and focus too much on technical aspects. And honestly, now that I have recently qualified and just given my interviews, I can definitely say that if technical is 2% less, it's okay. You can build it up by referring to books in a couple of days. But
Right.
public speaking skills don't come overnight. So please, dear students and all our audience here, make sure that you make good efforts to improve your public speaking skills. So with that, we'll move on to the next question.
Hmm.
You did your articleship from a mid-sized firm, and
Yeah.
mid-sized firms are known to offer a variety of exposures to the articles. So
Yeah.
can you describe your experience as an article in a mid-sized firm?
It was great. So, okay. I mean, so I was in a mid-sized firm as such, but it was a growing mid-sized firm, and the juncture that I entered that firm was one that they had grown to a certain size, wherein that that diversity of exposure, so to say, like doing audit, tax, compliance, everything together was not there. The departments had been clearly laid out, so the lines were drawn. So I was in audit for my articleship exposure, so I didn't get to do tax. So in that sense, that particular experience of having done all the things in the spectrum for a chartered accountant, that I didn't get to do. But in terms of audit, it was great because I got to do smaller clients, as well as we had about one or two listed clients as well. So I got to do all sizes of companies, from an individual, which was from an individual professional, which was, let's say, which was a doctor, I think at JJ Hospital, for that person, also to an actress. I'm not sure if people would remember, but it was Diana Fenty. She was in Cocktail, if I remember correctly. Yeah. So her, and then we had clients like Wall Street Finance Limited, which was a listed company. It was a full-fledged money changer. So where they used to operate branches of Western Union money transfer. So I got a lot of exposure from a lot of different sectors, which was great, because I think at larger firms, probably it may so happen that you're doing one client quarter after quarter if it's a listed client. So in that sense, I had a great time in terms of doing lots of clients. I think I did about 20, 25 clients in 3 years. And every year there used to be a rotation. So if I did one client this year for the audit cycle, I would not do it again next year, right? So yeah, it was a fantastic experience. I made a lot of good friends. I think some of my closest friends have come from my articleship firm, because what happens with a smaller firm is you're very tight knit with everybody. It's not like a larger firm where there are thousands of employees, so you know some people, don't know many people. In my case, I knew everybody in the firm, at least on a first name basis, and with some of my colleagues from audit, I have a really special relationship even today. So we're very close friends. So yeah, that's about it.
That's really great to hear that you had a really memorable
Hmm.
articleship, because sometimes
Yeah,
we often hear about students cribbing that we have very low stipends, they make us work long hours, but
yeah,
ultimately I think articleship is a time to learn. So if you take
right.
out the learnings, it's going to be one of the most memorable periods of your life.
Yeah.
Nice. So immediately after you qualified in 2015,
Hmm.
you joined Deloitte, okay, in
Yeah.
the assurance practice, right? And can you
Yes.
describe that experience for our audience, like the transition from a mid-sized firm to a big firm?
Right. So I think everything was magnified 100x, because I went from auditing 25 clients in 3 years, like I said, to auditing one client for 2 years. Okay. That was how much things changed, because I was put into, I don't know, I still don't know it correctly, but there is some classification called A group versus Z group. So at A group, you work for a specific partner and all the clients in that partner, or in Z group you work for a specific client because those are big clients or something. So I think in the Z group, or if it's the A group, vice versa. I don't know how that classification works, but I was working only on one client for 2 years. But I have to say that despite that, there was so much to learn at Deloitte, because as a smaller client, at smaller clients, there isn't that much complexity or depth, which you will get to experience at Deloitte's clients. So I was auditing a huge company in the automotive business, and even in 2 years, I was not able to cover half their balance sheet. That is the extent of depth that there was. So it was starting from processes like order to collection, or procure to payment, all of these, and then going on to audit functions like treasury, and then also helping with consolidation and segment reporting. All of these things were something that I'd never experienced before. So at smaller clients, okay, this is the P&L, this is the revenue. You have checked the sources of revenue, made any segment reports that you want to, done some evidence checking, which is substantive procedures, and it's done. But that's not how it worked at Deloitte. And one very big thing Deloitte taught me was control testing, because at a time when I was at the smaller firms, ICFR rules had not come in completely. It was not mandatory to document controls. So that was one thing that I learned for the first time at Deloitte. So yes, again, Deloitte has also given me a lot of good friends, because again, we were at one client, so we had a small organization within Deloitte. We were 50 people who were, stuffed into this one client for a period of 2 years. So again, made some really great friends at Deloitte. And yeah, I think it was a great learning experience, especially in terms of the global exposure that it gave me.
We do hear that you started at a smaller level, learned many things at a smaller
Mhm.
level, and then went on to build upon those learnings at a
Yeah.
big four firm. Great. So after that, you moved to Nomura Holdings, which is one of the largest investment banking firms worldwide. And in fact,
Yeah.
it bought over the Lehman Brothers after they crashed in the 2008 subprime
Mhm.
crisis. So that's how huge Nomura is. Here, you played the role of a financial controller for entities
Mhm.
in the United Kingdom. So, can you tell me what exactly this role was and how did your typical
Mhm.
workday look like?
Sure. So while I was at Deloitte, one of the things that always interested me was their treasury function. So I was always interested in knowing their investments, their borrowings, and documenting disclosures related to that in their 20F filings. Okay, which is the SEC annual report. Okay, so I was always interested in finance, and I knew that someday I want to make that shift. So when this Nomura opportunity came along, I decided to pursue it. Um, and at Nomura, the big change was that the tables had turned. From being an auditor, I went on to being on the client side of the finance team. So I was then interacting with auditors from EY at that point of time, and defending our opinions on accounting treatment that we had followed. And so the tables actually turned completely. In terms of my role over there, I was the financial controller. So, like I said, I was in charge of financial reporting. I was also in charge of reporting external reports to the regulators because Nomura is a financial institution. So it is subjected to regulations by the central bank or the central financial regulator of the respective jurisdiction it is domiciled in. So for UK, I was reporting to the Bank of England and to the Prudential Regulation Authority. There were some reports that needed to be filed. There were some financial reports basically. So I was working on those and also working on our monthly, quarterly, semi-annual, and annual financial reports and regulatory filing. So yeah, that was my role over there. And in terms of a typical work day, of course, it used to start with uh, um, catching up. So basically, quarter ends were the most hectic period because we were also supposed to provide inputs for the results that were disclosed on a quarterly basis by NHI, which is the parent company in Japan. So they're a listed company in US. So for that, we had to make some effort to provide the results in a format that were easily consolidated at the head office level, and the results were declared. So that was one. And then we had our local work as well for our respective jurisdiction in UK or whatever. So yeah, so quarter ends were very hectic. And in terms of what my workday used to look like, it used to start with like taking a look at the ledger, what the positions are, if there are any journals that still need to be booked, if there are any accruals that have not been posted, to follow up and get those booked, to make sure and finalize the trial balance by I think the fifth business day, and then on seventh business day the balance sheet, P&L, and cash flow statements were due. So yeah, that's how it used to start. And then for non-quarter ends, a lot of the work went on in automating processes, getting processes up to speed, process enhancements, process understanding, cross trainings if there was some handovers to be done, and also following up on issues from the quarter that has been. So if there were any issues that we encountered, we had to go back and reflect on those, what caused the issue, what could be the fix for this, and make sure that that doesn't happen again. So yeah, that was my typical workday.
So I think your workday typically involved a lot of interactions with many people from different teams, and not just
Yes.
teams in India, but teams abroad as
Yeah.
well. And your experiences of public speaking and leadership
Mm-hmm.
positions in college must have been of most use. Uh, so I think everybody, if you want to go higher up the corporate ladder into management positions, make sure that you have really good leadership and public speaking skills. Reiterating once again. So thank you for sharing those experiences.
Mm-hmm.
Now, nearly 6 years later, after qualifying in
Mm-hmm.
2015, you
Yeah.
have moved on to do an MBA at the New York University's Stern School of Business. And for the uninitiated, this is one of the top MBA programs worldwide. So why an MBA after 6 years of experience? And more importantly, why a global MBA?
Sure. So I'll speak about why MBA first. All right. So I felt that having done CA and CFA, I had some knowledge on the accounting and financial reporting bit, but I was still not, in the core world of finance. I was not generating revenues for my firm, especially at Nomura. I was not in a revenue generating function. At Deloitte, I was because I was an auditor, but it was still not a core finance role. It was more of a consulting role, right? So I wanted to move towards core finance because that has always been my primary interest. So, and I realized that having done CA, and especially, the jobs in core finance, whether it is investment banking or private equity, they are very network heavy industries, right? It's very important to have a very strong network because after a certain point of time, you'll be expected to bring in business into the firm that you're working for. So, and I felt that having done CA, because it is not a campus course, we don't have that kind of strong network or bonding. Of course, we know 10 other CAs in our vicinity, but we don't have that strong bonding because we've never been like, at college together. Like I have a very tight bond with people who I was in college with, but not that's not the same case for people who I did CA with. So I realized that that network was missing, and also to make that shift from a traditional financial reporting or auditing background to make that shift into corporate finance or core finance, I needed that some necessary skills. Like I don't really think I have ever worked in an environment where things change every 5 minutes. It's not, my work environment has never been very dynamic. Audit as such is a post facto job, and even financial reporting is slightly post facto, though not as post facto as auditing. So I always felt that I needed to learn some skills about how to thrive in a dynamic environment, how to negotiate, because that's also one of the skills I don't think I have in me at this moment. So that was one of the reasons I decided to do an MBA, because I felt it'll help me make that transition. A, and secondly, give me some skills that I really need to do the jobs that I want to do and help me build that network. Why a global MBA was because I have been born and raised in Bombay. Okay, so I have never stepped out of my house. So it's my one protective shell that I have been in for 28 years. I'm 28 right now, so I for 28 years of my life. Okay, and I've lived with my parents, of course. So I wanted that education, to really develop my personality in that sense as to whether or not I'll be able to survive independently. If I didn't have my mom cooking for me, or if I didn't have help in doing everything that I do, because I'm a privileged male child, right? So if I didn't have all of that, well, whether I'll be able to survive or not. And I think for a lot of people, fortunately from the engineering background, if they move to a different city to attend college, they have that experience at a young age, right? Living in a hostel, living with other people, and I'd never had that, so I wanted that. And secondly, I of course wanted to see how business is done in a developed market like the US, because India is still a developing market, and the volume and the depth of transactions that take place in the US is definitely greater, and I wanted to experience that. So multicultural classroom was one thing that I was looking for, multicultural experience that I was seeking. And in terms of the geography that I chose specifically, it was because it is definitely the most developed financial market there is. So that's why I wanted to go for US.
Nice. And it's really happy to see a chartered accountant make it to such a top school. I think this is inspiration for all our audience again, that you can do something like this. A global MBA is also an option for chartered accountants, just like it is for engineers, because we mostly see engineers going on to do MBAs. Not chartered accountants doing MBAs is a very recent trend, is what I have observed. So a
Right.
great inspiration for all our audience for this. Okay, so I would like to come to one apprehension that many of our audience have. So our audience
Mm-hmm.
is actually CA students or very young qualified chartered accountants like me. And many of
Mm-hmm.
them have this apprehension that we don't have a big four articleship background. We don't have ranks at any level of our chartered accountancy exams. Is this an impediment to success? And in the long run, how much do these matter? So let's hear it from you yourself, because you also don't have a rank at any level. Neither have you been
Right.
from a Big Four for articleship, and
Mhm.
has been an
Yeah.
impediment to you until now.
Okay. So I believe that having a rank, especially, I want to speak about the rank first. It can give you an easy start because it will open some doors that, not having a rank won't. So in that sense, it can give you an easy start. But there is absolutely uh, you know, no implication that in the long term you can't catch up. Definitely you can. So it all comes down to hard work, and that brings me to the second question as well, which was about the Big Four articleship. It absolutely doesn't matter. So it's not necessary that going to a Big Four necessarily means good training. It is absolutely not that, because sometimes working at mid-sized firms and small-sized firms, you have a lot of street smartness and a lot of practical exposure that people in Big Four would never get. Of course, Big Four has its own advantages of giving you a brand name on your resume early on in your career, but it's not at all an impediment to success in the long run. Also, I think 5 years down the line, after having done CA, since it's been 6 years for my case, 5 years down the line, it matters about what kind of steps have you taken, how have you performed in your career after qualification. That's what decides the future course of action. So a rank and everything will give you a head start right at the beginning. And of course, if you continue to work that hard as you did for getting the rank, then of course the sky is the limit. But just that, if you think that just that rank is the only threshold, that once you have crossed that, then you can rest for the rest of your life, no, then unfortunately you're going to be the rabbit in the tortoise race. So that's what I have to say about it. It doesn't matter at all in the long run.
Yes, so I hope that clears a lot of confusions. Of course, with due respect to those people who have ranks and
Yes,
who have Big
absolutely.
Four articleships, but you shouldn't be fretting that I didn't get this, my life is over. Take other steps,
Mhm.
take other by lanes to reach that particular destination. And there's no dearth of people ready to give you good advice, happily give you good advice regarding the career steps that you should take, keeping in mind your long-term goals. Thank you for clarifying that,
Yeah.
Nick. Now, enough of work and academics. So let's move to our outside work and academics. I know that you have volunteered at quite a few NGOs, and the main
Mhm.
focus of your volunteering work is financial literacy, especially for
Yeah.
women from the lowest strata of society, something that is the need of the hour in a country like India.
Yeah.
Can you tell me what motivated you to do this? What were your learnings and takeaways from these experiences?
Sure. Okay. So I have to admit, it started as a firm initiated CSR activity. So I was supposed to be at an NGO for, I think, 1 hour and talk about any subject, because I think at my firm at Nomura, it is a mandatory requirement to do it. So that's how it started, honestly. But the first day I was there, I came across this bunch of women. They are enrolled under the Government of India's National Skill Development Program. So the National Skill Development Program, what they do is they tie up with local NGOs and they impart some vocational training courses. So like, for example, they would train you in beauty services, they would train you in tailoring and embroidery, they would train you in nursing, they would train you in mobile repairing and so on. So this is specifically to target that audience that is not formally educated, for not formally educated adults. So that's the government of India's initiative. And the first day that I was there, I met so many of these women. So I remember this one conversation very specifically. This woman was working with Urban Clap. Now it is Urban Company, and she used to provide these beauty services at home. So she used to go home to people's places to do facials, manicure, pedicures, and so on. And she told me this thing that she doesn't have a bank account. She has to deal in cash, and at Urban Clap that doesn't really work very well because her checks take about 30 to 45 days to come. So because she doesn't have a bank account, right? So she wants to get better checks or something of that sort. And so that was the start of the conversation. And then she went on to tell me that, so I asked her, why you don't have a bank account? She said that she had a bank account, but she closed it because one day she got a call asking for some details, and she gave it because she was not aware of the scams that were going on, and she lost about, I think, 7 or 10,000 rupees. And she said because of that, I panicked, and then I told my husband, and her husband beat her up. He closed her account, and so now she didn't have a bank account. She had to deal in cash, and then she also told me that every time now, because she has cash at home, every time her husband finds that cash, she's going to spend it on activities. So, I felt really bad that, it was such an enterprising woman, somebody who was trying to do so many things with her life, for her kids. She wanted to work because, she wanted to do something for her kids, and she was trying so hard. And yet she fell prey to a scam, one. And the second thing, because of that, she had excluded herself from the financial system altogether. So the thing is that without having that bank account, they don't even get the subsidies that are meant for them, right? Because right now LPG subsidies go straight into bank account. She was not even getting that, and they were paying premium rates to get gas cylinders. So I felt very bad, and that's how it started. So I was like, this definitely needs help, and I was like, I am a chartered accountant, and I felt so privileged at that point of time that I could, just Google Pay and transfer money to someone in 5 seconds. So that is what actually got me started, and then I was associated with this NGO for about 2 years, if I'm not wrong. Yeah, until the lockdown, basically. After the lockdown, then of course, things got a little dilly dallied because they did not have smartphones to do Zoom meetings or something like that. So yeah, so I really liked it, and it taught me so many things. For example, I'll tell you, I designed this 6-week module about financial literacy. So we started with what is money, and needs versus wants, importance of savings, and then went on to, of course, discuss plastic money, cards, and how to keep them safe and all of that. And we were also teaching them how to fill up deposit slips and write out checks in case they ever go to a bank. Yeah, of course. One more thing that I wanted to tell you was I figured out once I started teaching them that if they go to a bank, they're just kicked around like a football for 2 hours, because they'll go to a counter and somebody will say, "Wo counter pe jao," somebody will say, "Wo counter pe jao," and they
You
don't
have
even
to
know how to fill out a
discuss.
deposit slip. Yeah. So that's how it started. And in one of the initial exercises, we were doing this exercise for needs and wants. So this exercise is where you make them list down 25 things that they would want in their life if they had all the money in the world, and then you ask them to strike out five things, you know 5 things at a time. You have to tell them that, now, okay, now cut out 5 things, then you cut out 5 things. So that really, that helps them
Narrows down.
differentiate between what is their actual need and what is their desire. So that was the exercise that we were doing. And because these are women, one of the things that really touched me a lot was, so these women one of these women had written down a cell phone for herself and a cell phone for her son. Okay. And when we were cutting off the things, she cut off her cell phone first, and she dragged on her cell phone for her son right till the very end. So we wanted to come down to a situation where there are only 5 things left. And she made every attempt to get it to the bottom five, that would last at the end. She couldn't do that. She had to cut it out in the last round, which was going from 10 things to 5 things. But I mean, I'm just trying to say that it just taught me something about mothers and women in general, that she cut out her cell phone in the first exercise. From 25 to 20, she cut out her cell phone, but she kept the cell phone for her son for the longest time. So there are lots of these things that I've learned, helping these women out. And every 12 weeks there's a new batch that comes in. So it's always fun to meet different women at who are so skilled in so many things. So, and I've learned some of them are so skilled in embroidery. They create the most beautiful works on just a sewing machine. So yeah, it's been a great experience.
Really a heartwarming story actually, and it makes me and I think our audience also will realize how really privileged we are uh,
Yeah,
compared to such people, and therefore cribbing about small
right,
things like articleship stipend is less, they make us work long hours is actually really bad.
right,
So count your privileges. That's a really good thing that volunteering teaches us as well. I always tell
yeah,
this to people who ask me that, we don't have any special talents. We're not good at music. We're not really good at public speaking. Dance is not a cup of tea, etc. What do we do? I always tell them volunteer at any NGO. It will give you an opportunity to channelize your energies for your own benefit and for the benefit of somebody who needs it really. So really happy to hear about such great experiences volunteering at NGOs.
Yeah.
Now, I'm sure these have given you a lot of qualities like empathy and things like that, and understanding human psyche in general, which help you a lot in your day-to-day life as well, especially when you have
Yeah.
to interact with so many stakeholders. Nice. Uh, really happy to hear that again. Now, one last question for you.
Mhm.
So a large part of our audience, or most of our audience, as I previously mentioned, are young CA students and young chartered accountants. If you were of that
Yeah.
age, what advice would you give yourself? Tell our audience.
Uh, I honestly, want to say that I wanted to be 100% sure of what I was doing, so that once I reach, 50 or 60, or I'm looking back at my life at any juncture, I don't want to have any regrets. So, because, and I'm not saying that I regret doing chartered accountancy or any other course for that matter. Luckily, things have worked out well. But I know a lot of people who have done chartered accountancy and then moved on to fields that have absolutely nothing to do with them. So I have friends who quit chartered accountancy in favor of doing baking, and they bake the most wonderful cakes that you can have. So I just want that, CA is so much hard work, and it takes such a huge toll on your personal life, your health. I especially, in the 4 months of leave, preparation leave for CA final, I put on 18 kgs of weight. So it takes such a huge toll on you. I just want everyone, especially young people who are still pursuing the course, to be absolutely 100% sure that you want to do it, because right now we live in times where YouTubers make more money than CEOs. Okay, so you can't. There is absolutely, you can do anything and everything that you are good at. Everything is a viable career option. So don't necessarily feel the pressure to be in a conventional career just because somebody asked you to, just because there is pressure. So I just want you to be absolutely sure, if you're going to put in so many efforts to do CA, please make sure that it's worth your time and effort, and then you don't abandon it in future.
So don't get swayed by the masses or by the FOMO, is your take on it.
Absolutely. Yes.
Nice,
Yes,
really
absolutely.
nice. It was a really enriching conversation with you for me personally, and I'm sure for our audience as well. Thank you very much, Jitendra, and hope to see you very soon on our channel for something else.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Priya. This has been a great chat. I really liked all the questions that you asked me. I'm also feeling very, very excited. This is the first time I'm going to be on a podcast. So I'm very excited about this. And I hope that somebody will like our chat, and it will help them in any aspect of their life. So I'm just very, very happy to have done this. Thank you so much for the opportunity, and you guys are doing some great work. I look forward to more guests on your podcast, and I'll definitely listen to all of them, the ones that come in future.
That's really a great motivation for us. Thank you very much.